Bom dia, Portugang. To the beam. This is War with Russia. Let's check it out.
He's good. Wicked. It's Portuguese good.
Alright, so as you can see, the unseasonably sunny weather has disappeared again, and we're just going into about 2 weeks of overcast cloud and heavy rain, and I'm not complaining too much. We that two or 3 weeks we had of sunshine was unexpected, and it was very welcome, but we do need the rain. We do need the rain for the plants to grow. You know, we learned that in kindergarten, didn't we? Keep saying that. Keep telling yourself that so you can keep smiling. Right. Anyway, serious subject. I do notice that there's still quite a few of you who haven't quite gotten around to subscribing. So please smash that subscribe button. It really, really helps me out. And remember that if you don't...
That's ignorant.
All right, let's get into it. Bom dia. It's amazing to see one of the village elders out at this time in the morning. What is it? It's about 9 o'clock in the morning or something on a Saturday morning. She's already out collecting vegetables. So what got me thinking about this was, I think it was yesterday or the day before, in the last couple of days anyway, there was the Tucker Carlson interview with Vladimir Putin. And if you didn't hear about that, you must be living under a rock. And to be honest, I'm jealous of you if you didn't hear about that. You must be completely off grid. How are you even watching this video? But yeah, it got me thinking again, something I've been concerned about for the last few months. And whenever I have mentioned it to people tell me not to be paranoid, you know, but here it is. I've got a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old son, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I can hear the drum beats of war beating louder than ever, especially in the last couple of years. You know, we've obviously got, we came here from Hong Kong to Portugal, that is. And, you know, we've obviously got the ongoing trouble between China and Taiwan, although I must admit, we've been hearing about that for many, many years. I don't know if that's escalating or if it's just more of the same. Obviously, North Korea, saber rattling, blah, blah, blah. But then suddenly we have this explosion between Russia and Ukraine in the last couple of years. And now we've got the Middle East. We've got the Middle East. So we've got the US bombing the Houthis, who we're all supposed to suddenly have heard of, the Houthis. I mean, I thought that was a band from the 80s. Didn't they do that All You Zombies song or something? But yeah, the Houthis, of course. We're all supposed to know about these people that the US are bombing. It's on the news. It's on the news, isn't it? But it's a funny thing. We get told what to think, and I'm always suspicious of any of these things that we're sort of told what to think. Quite often they involve changing your Facebook emoji. So it might be like having a Ukraine flag or a Palestinian flag or whatever it is. You're told what to think, and the people who are on the far right are on this side, and the people who are on the tolerant left are on this side. And I'm always suspicious of these. I think bullshit. We're being lied to. Probably both sides are being lied to. We probably don't have any idea what's going on. And this is my view somewhere like Ukraine, for example. And in Ukraine, I've been thinking about for a while, and I'm going to come out. This is my big coming out, guys. I don't give a shit about Ukraine. There you go. Half of you have just unsubscribed, haven't you? I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if Ukraine is part of Russia or not. I really, really don't. And I know people are going to say, oh, you'd feel differently if you were living there. Well, yeah, I would. But what's the difference of living under, you know, the Ukrainian leadership and the Russian leadership? I mean, this guy Zelensky, there's literally videos of this guy on YouTube playing the piano with his willy on some TV show. I mean, this is obviously not a serious guy. And then people talk about the Nazis, the Nazi problem in Ukraine, and the mainstream media describe this as a right-wing talking point. Yeah, I can show you, and I'm going to even link a few pages, because, you know, I'm old enough to remember stuff. I'm not quite old enough to start forgetting stuff. And I remember, seems like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, all the mainstream media were running articles about the Nazi problem in Ukraine. So, you know, Nazis versus Russians. Which side am I supposed to pick? But I tell you what I'm not going with. I'm not going with the idea of my sons being dragged into that meat grinder. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want Ukraine to join NATO. I don't want them to join NATO until they're a proper country. Or, if they're part of Russia, forget about it. But what I don't want is my son's dragged into this nonsense, you know? And you might think I'm being overly paranoid or worried about nothing, but let's check it out. Civil Defence Minister on the January the 24th, Civil Defence Minister of Sweden. Sweden should prepare for war as it joins NATO. Ring a bell. On the same day, was it General Patrick, a senior general in England, claimed that the UK should get itself onto a war footing. You know, recently we've heard Boris Johnson, former UK PM, you know, arguing that young people ought to, you know, join the army and, you know, and he said, oh, he would join if he had to, you know, and as I've said, you know, put that fat bastard on a horse, give him a sword, let him run into battle, then we'll talk. So, for me, this is what concerns me. You have these people, again, talking about war. The war that seems closest to us is this bloody Ukraine-Russia nonsense, which, again, you know, they're not a part of NATO. As far as I could tell, they're not a proper democracy. And half of them are bloody Russians anyway. So, you know, I'm sorry. I don't see why the world needs to be dragged into war because of this. There's lots of wars all over the world all the time. What makes this one special? You know, if you wanted to make the lefties squeal, I might say, is it because they're white? What about that, lefties? Is it because they're white? Do we have to save them because they're white? You can tell I'm angry, can't you? And I am. I'm serious about this. I've got two sons, aged 14 and 16, and I'm worried. I'm worried listening to these people talking about war. Why don't I trust them? Why don't I trust them? Well, speaking earlier about tolerance, we are a very tolerant bunch. I mean, recently we tolerated them locking us all in our houses for our own good, trying to force us to take vaccines against our will. And by the way, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. My kids have had MMR. You know, if the circumstances were different, like I say, if I was a police officer or a prison guard or some other kind of frontline worker interacting with a lot of people, I may have wanted to take the vaccine, you know. But I want to have a choice. And as it goes, it looks like they were lying to us, and they were caught many times lying. 100% effective. Okay, you might catch it, but you won't spread it. And on and on and on and on. They lied. Okay, I was in Hong Kong at the beginning of the pandemic, and you know, my faith in institutions was really destroyed then by the WHO lying about human-to-human transmission. And when I think about it, we forget very quickly, don't we? I mean, weapons of mass destruction. Do you remember that? Tony Blair. I mean, why isn't that guy rotting in jail for the rest of his life? You know, hundreds of thousands of people died because of that lie. And that guy's still walking around smugly telling everyone else how they should behave. I mean, what is going on? So no, I don't trust them. And then let's take another thing. And this is especially for you guys, you expats here in Portugal. What happens if we get called up? What happens if the US leads us into another war? What happens? You know, and I've seen it, you might think it's hyperbolic, but do you really see any evidence of Joe Biden not wanting a war? Does anyone really see any evidence of the UK resisting the call from the US? They'll do as they're told, and you know it. Trudeau, yesterday, I saw Trudeau. What did he say? Because apparently Putin had a dig at him in the Tucker interview. And he said, oh, well, you know, we will stick with Ukraine until the end, until victory. We will win. What does that mean? No matter what. What does that mean? Even if they threaten nuclear strikes? Even if we have to do conscription? Well, what does that look like? What does that mean? What does winning mean? What does winning that war in Ukraine mean? You know, no one's ever going to tell you that. Boris Johnson yesterday, again, Putin said that Boris Johnson had rejected a deal, and this is something we all heard at the time. But Boris Johnson said, no, that's lies. That's lies. But we're going to stick. We are going to win. Putin is going to lose. What does that mean? How many people have to die for that to happen? So then I'm thinking about us, you know, Brits. And I suppose you could go as far as to talk about anyone who's living in Portugal who's from another country that might get caught up in such a war, whether it be in Ukraine or the Middle East, who knows? Well, here's the thing for me, here's the rub. When it comes to living in the UK, we can go back 20, 25 years when I was working in social care. And I remember the start of this nonsense where every few weeks we'd have to go on some kind of diversity training, and this was really the beginning of it. And I got to learn how, as a white man, I have inherent privilege, and basically everything I've got just fell to me out of a tree magically. I didn't have to work as hard as anyone else because I'm a white man. On top of that, Britain is a shit country. All it's done is colonise the world and kept slaves and been racist. Hasn't done any good things. And for some reason, my ancestors are responsible for that. Therefore, I owe everyone else a living. On top of that, as a man, I'm probably a violent rapist and criminal. And my masculinity is toxic. So basically, I'm absolutely shit. And that's just gotten progressively worse over the years, to be honest. To the point where I've even seen quite a lot of young white men believing it so much that they've started cutting their willies off to try and become women. I don't care. I know I'm offending some of you, and I just don't care. I'm being honest. This shit is doing damage. And now, these people, these cretins, these absolute disgusting, filthy criminals, filthy lying criminals, are going to ask me for my sons. No. You better come with guns. That's all I can tell you. So this is the thing. There's not a chance I or my sons will be fighting on behalf of the UK, because the UK culture doesn't align with my values. It's that simple. Now, Portugal could be a different kettle of fish, because one thing I've said about Portugal, aside from all the obvious things about why people would want to live here, the culture more aligns closely with my values, okay? You know, stoicism. Brits used to be famous for stoicism, but not anymore. Family values, you know, family first. This idea of being kind of self-sufficient, hands-on, practical people, all of these kind of things. And I think many of these used to be British values, but not anymore. So I wouldn't fight for Britain now, because, to be honest with you, I'd just as soon put a hole in the bottom of it and sink it to the bottom of the bloody sea. Because the Britain I loved is long gone. Come at me. I know I'm offending people, and I don't care. I'm speaking my truth. My truth, as they say nowadays. Not the truth, my truth. I've got my own truth. So what I want to know is from any of you guys who are maybe here from the UK or the US or some other country that would potentially see your kids get drawn into this BS. I mean, would you be happy to let your kids go to fight on behalf of the US on the front line in Ukraine, for example, or Iran, for example, if there wasn't a direct threat to your country? Or what about Portugal? Would you be willing to fight for Portugal? I'm not sure I'd be willing to fight for Portugal on behalf of NATO, but what I would do is I would stand shoulder to shoulder with my Portuguese brethren if we were being invaded. That's for sure. And I know they would have my back too. I know they would. So anyway, let me have your thoughts. So maybe I'm just having this rant because it's raining and overcast and I'd rather be out on my motorbike. Yeah. On another note, before I leave it, I was on Good Morning Portugal the other day, and Carl Munson was talking about prepping, and I was saying, you know, I'm not a prepper, but I've certainly done a bit of low-key prepping. If anyone wanted me to make a video about that, please let me know in the comments. But anyway, on that note, I think I'm going to wrap the video up here. If you like this type of content and you're new around here, please consider subscribing. It really, really helps me out. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Muito obrigado, amigos. Ciao.